Me and my friend were at a small rave in the Midwest. It started off all fine and dandy. I was simply looking for something to do one evening, so I called my friend C. C informed me of the rave, and since I had a fair amount of extra cash, I thought I should go with him because he was planning on going by himself. So we headed off. When we got there, it was a very cool venue. Huge silos were towering all around us, and all I could see were cars all around us. After we got in, I quickly started asking around for whatever I could get my hands on. Well, I must have done pretty well, because after a short amount of time I ended up with numerous hits of LSD, a small arsenal of X, and a somewhat hefty bag of mushrooms. My friend was strapped for cash, so I thought I would brighten his day with a couple hits of acid. We went to the car to drop them. We went back into the rave until the doses took effect, and we both agreed on going to the car for the transition between coming up and peaking. That way, when we reached the peak, we would walk back into the rave for a whole new scene, which is good. While sitting in the car, a couple of party kids saw us sparking the blunt through the window and kindly asked us if we had anything for them to roll their own weed in. Being of the friendly nature that we are, I asked them if they just wanted to hop in and join us instead. Of course they agreed. Everything was going okay until I started to freak a little. I don't know what my problem is, but I get very paranoid on LSD, and if no one stops me, it just gets worse by the second. I found out the kids were from the same town as the party was being thrown in, not an unusual occurrence. But then I got the idea in my head that these two guys who joined us were really up to no good. The way I figured it was that they knew what I had got from their friend who I'd bought it from, and, for some reason unknown to me, they were scamming on taking it from me. I sat for a moment pondering what I should do, and out of nowhere I start threatening these kids as if they had done some great injustice to me. I don't quite know why, but I said something like, "You know, I could strangle the breath out of you." They were pretty surprised by this, and so was my friend C. My friend didn't know exactly what to do with me now, so he suggested that we go back to the party and chill out a little bit. I told him I didn't want to go in there because I already had bad thoughts in my head, and God only knows what a man on LSD can be capable of when he is not thinking right. I told him we should leave, and he didn't want to, but eventually I talked him into it. The car ride home was very, very bad. We were both tripping pretty well, and the previous scene had just shot both our brains into confusion. He was mad that I wanted to leave so bad and so early, and I was mad because I thought the kids were trying to do me wrong. He was the only one left to talk to, so my mind convinced me that he was also up to no good. We had very long and aggravating discussions, and I'm sure neither of us at all understood what the other was talking about. I thought he had been trying to steal from me, and I have not the first clue what he was thinking, probably that I was losing my mind and taking him down with me. It is impossible to explain what was said, but what I can conclude from what our friends told me long after the incident, he thought I was ragging on him for being a bad person and being worthless, when I was really just going off on some totally whack idea that he was trying to steal from me. I wish I could convey my feelings better, but it was like every little thing he said in response to my questions sounded exactly like what someone who was trying to do me wrong would say. And everything he said just more and more confirmed and strengthened what I was thinking. After a while, when there was nothing more to be said, I realized that the whole time we were freaking out on each other, or I guess I was freaking on him. We had never turned. So I asked him, "Do you even know where we are?" "No." "Do you know what direction we are heading?" "No." "What the fuck are we gonna do now?" I asked him to turn around and just head back the way he came, but he just kept driving. The sun was coming up, and I thought it was about time we figured out where we were and started home. Neither of us were in good humor, and we just wanted to go home. I told him to just stop, so he did, literally. On the side of the highway he pulled over, and we both got out of the car. Luckily there was some sort of building a very short ways up the road, so we sat there and just tried to cool off and sort out our problems. This was the first pleasant time in our whole journey. I thought anyway. He was laying on the ground, and I was sitting next to him. I think I realized that I was being a jerk, so I tried to comfort him in any way I could. I don't exactly remember how we got on the subject, but we started talking about drug addiction. He told me he wanted help, and I told him that I would try to help him. I told him that together we could stop all the drug shit and make it together. He hugged me. I was cool with giving him as much emotional support he needed, but I pushed him away after a little bit when he wouldn't let go of me. It made me very uncomfortable. The next thing I know, his eyes fill with tears and he smashes his cellular phone on the road and runs straight across the street into a cornfield. This bewildered me. After that I figured I was right all along about him and I walked away. Which probably wasn't the thing to do, but with a head full of acid your mind can only take so much. Although I knew what city we were in and I had a brother that lived there, so I thought no matter how far away I was from his house I would just walk. I found out I was dead wrong. It became clear to me that we were right outside some very tiny town and I was nowhere near where I wanted to be. There was something very wrong with the dog I encountered walking around. At first he started ferociously barking at me, but it really didn't scare me. I knew he was just acted tough, and if I acted like he didn't bother me he would quit. Luckily it worked. He then followed me and would not go away. Then I noticed something strange. Nothing had happened to him, but he was suddenly limping and whimpering. I could tell he was trying to get me to follow him somewhere, but when I didn't follow him he just kept following me. I thought that if this dog was trained to act hurt and lead people to wherever he was trying to take me, there is something very, very wrong with this little town, and I had to get out of there ASAP. I walked downtown, the whole 4 blocks of it, and figured I had nowhere else to go, so I just sat and watched the clouds move back and forth. A truck with some pretty friendly people were out, and I told them I would give them as much money as it took to give me a ride to where I wanted to go. They told me they couldn't because they had something to do, but they brought me to some people who could. When I got to the house it was probably about 6 in the morning, and they told me I had to wait for some guy to come to give me a ride. My mind was all screwed up from what had happened all night long, so I was acting very weird towards these people. Sitting outside of their house I saw an ambulance speed by and I thought, shit, someone spotted C in a cornfield freaking out. So I went back in the house. The guy finally came and gave me a ride 50 miles to where my brother lived. When I got in his house, through a window, I woke up my brother and bitched at him until he gave me a ride another 70 miles to where my home was. My brother had never seen me tripping before, and that was very bad. A couple days later my mom confronted me about my use of acid, and I really didn't know what to say. She found out from C's mom because C ended up in an emergency room after failed attempts to kill himself. I didn't know what to think. Then I heard all the crazy rumors going around about how I tried to talk this guy into killing himself. That story made a couple enemies for me. In conclusion, I felt really bad about what happened, and only me and C actually know the truth about what happened that night. I wish that we could be friends again, but I think that night pretty much ruined our friendship forever. I don't know what to say. LSD almost made one of my former good friends kill himself, and I wish it never happened, but it did.